Alrighty guys, so this is going to be the tutorial for Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. It's going to be for any percent ultimate, and the run shown is going to be on veteran, but everything is equally applicable pretty much for casual mode as well if you happen to be playing on casual. For anyone that plays no out of bounds, again, majority of this is still going to be relevant, minus a few things of course like the zips and door skips. But yeah, I thought I'd put together this tutorial for anyone who is interested in getting into the game, and I'll kind of give a play-by-play of what's going on during each level, and I'll try and explain some of my boss strats and what I'm doing that could potentially help you guys out. So yeah, let's get into stage one here. I'm just going to be playing an OST in the background because my video itself does already have commentary over it. But I'll try and at least have some tunes for you guys. So any percent ultimate, ultimate mode, what is evidently different, you have the charge attack with Zangetsu. Zangetsu also gets all of the charge abilities that, or sorry, all of the special abilities that he would have from sacrificing the allies along the way, but you do get the added benefit of getting to still recruit your allies and having those tools available as well, you know, whether it be their sub-weapons, mobility benefits, etc. So we're going to be starting off as Zangetsu. Couple of key points: his slash does 4 points of damage, his charge slash does 12 points of damage. You can get double hits with him, which are pretty handy. You can do it on a majority of bosses and enemies. It's all really in your jump and slash timing, and go into that a little bit more when we get to the first boss fight. First level is pretty standard. You're going to be dashing the entire time. If you're new to the category, I definitely recommend getting a handle on how little you actually have to press the dash button. The dash button, you do have to press it over and over again, but it's actually quite minimal. You don't need to mash it, so save your hand, save your controller. We're going to be getting into the first boss area here. Ideally, you want to be going in with 18 weapon energy and ball and chain. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to switch over to a different video that's a little more ideal for showing the fight. It's not quite optimal, but it's pretty close. So in regards to the multiple hits, and I'll kind of show it and then I'll go back and slow it down and explain what I'm doing here. In regards to multiple hits, with charge slash you can get triples on the train. It's not that reliable, but you can definitely shoot for and duplicate double slashes. So a double slash charge slash will do 24 damage. With the chains, you can also triple hit. Ball and chain does 7 naturally, so a triple hit is worth 21. So I'll show you guys kind of the fight in real time, and then I'll go back and slow it down and explain piece by piece what you're seeing here. I do drop one jump input right here. Ideally you want to get another jump up, but still strong fight overall. In terms of what you're looking to do with this fight, and I'll slow it down a little bit. Slow it down quite a bit. You're going to dash right off the bat. You get off this ledge, and I press dash once more. This is my visual cue for where I want to jump, and you're jumping towards him and away from him, and you can see that was a multiple hit. Same thing here. You're looking to get at least doubles, if not triples. On the chain, there was a triple there at the very end. So you're using this spot, or at least I use this spot here as a visual marker, and when you jump in, you want to double tap jump pretty quickly. When you're going backwards to get the chain going forward, you want to hold left while you double tap jump, and then you want to hold right when you throw your chain, and that'll make sure that you're heading left, but you still get your chain to the right. So to kind of give another example here. There's multiple hits on the in, double jumping left, holding right, and then throwing the chain. And you can charge while you throw the chain. Because they are separate buttons, you can use your sub-weapon while your charge slash is actually charging. Get on top of his hand. You can get double hits here as well when you jump up. If you're slashing and you kind of go out and then back into his hitbox, you will get double hits on the top of his head there as well. And at the end of any level, if you have any weapon points remaining that you don't need, i.e. the boss is dead, try and spend them beforehand, just to save you a tiny bit of time before the actual end of the level, because it does count down your remaining weapon energy, and that does contribute to your time. That's kind of what you're shooting for in terms of the stage 1 boss and how it looks when it all comes together. So you're aiming for a double charge slash on the way in, triple if you get it, great. And then chains on the way back, again aiming for doubles, but again if you hit a triple, that's great. This is the fight in my PB. I missed one chain entirely, but you can still get a decent fight out of it. I got some doubles there, and not much in terms of difference. One interesting quirk, and I will point this out because in-game time is used on the leaderboards currently. If you are on the character recruit screen, or like after you recruit Miriam, for example, in-game time is paused at this whole point after the fade out here. If you happen to switch to Miriam, because character swap does stop and then restart in-game time, it will start the in-game time. So just be sure not to switch characters on these screens here. And then it's off to stage 2. So stage 2 is where we're going to see first instance of what I call a Miriam jump, as well as a door skip. So door skips are only allowed in the out of bounds category. So in no out of bounds, you're not going to be utilizing this, but it can be seen here. So what just happened is Miriam has a higher natural jump height than Zangetsu. There's also a double slide here. I'll kind of pause this for a second while I explain that. So Miriam has a higher natural jump height than Zangetsu, but you can still get the double jump with Zangetsu. So by doing that, you jump higher than normal as Miriam, switch to Zangetsu, and you jump over the door trigger, which avoids the whole door animation, avoids the waiting, and you cause the screen transition in the middle of the wall. In regards to what was seen just slightly a second ago with the double slide, you just simply mash the jump button while holding down, and you will get a second slide. So instead of dropping straight down, you get a little bit of extra forward momentum. So here's another example of a door skip. This works on any door that you see with these little arrows, and it just skips the whole animation. Top part here, of course, watch for frogs. Frogs are the ones that do have the 2 yellow dots for eyes. You do want to be out of the water as much as you can up here, and then in the water as much as you can down here. Top to avoid your momentum being slowed down, bottom to increase it. This jump, I will say this jump right here is not as hard as it looks. I usually use this middle spot as kind of a visual marker as to where I want to do my second jump. If you want, you can use a charge slash on this first enemy and then double jump over this second enemy. Much safer. This jump saves very, very minimal time, so if you're feeling kind of apprehensive about it, that's an alternative that you can do. These guards are not too tricky once you figure out their pattern, once you know where to look. Just kind of play whatever RNG pattern you happen to get. You can just run by all of these bats. You ideally want to hit this platform as fast as you can to start it moving. This guy you can opt to kill instead of jumping over. It does not really make a difference. I'll be using charge slashes on these guys and then jumping out of my charge slash to avoid getting a little bit of a stop of momentum, because if you do a charge slash and you land, you will stop, come to like a dead stop for a second. Grabbing the axe there for Miriam, and another example of a double hit here. So any of these large golem enemies, any enemy of this size or with this size hitbox, you can get a double hit. In terms of what I look for in alignment, at least for this space, is there's this little barrier over here, this in the background. I basically look until I line up with that, and that's when I release to ensure I get my double hit. There is a stage 2 quick kill on the boss. There's a couple different ways you can do it. It may be hard to get consistent at first, and again, this is going to be one I'll probably slow down and give a little bit of a play-by-play as we go. So I'll show it in real time first, and then I'll slow it down and kind of give you guys what's going on. Axe does 25 damage, so it is a extremely useful tool, and you're going to be seeing a lot of it throughout the run. Slow this down here for a moment, and we can get into the details of this fight. So at the start of the fight, I'm going to be holding charge right off the bat, and I'm going to use the magic charm. I've kind of started looking for visual cues along the ceiling in terms of where I'm doing my initial jump, where I'm doing my second jump and throwing my charm, and then you're aiming to get a double charge slash on the boss right off the bat. So in slower speeds, make this a little bit easier to see here. Yeah, I should have gone a little bit further forward. So just holding charge during this whole cutscene, there's no reason to let go of it. This is probably one of the few instances where I will mash dash, where I'm looking to get dash as soon as I can right off the bat. This is one of the few instances where I may actually mash dash. Okay, so initial jump, I look for kind of just to the left of this icicle in the ceiling. Same thing for my second jump. There's the charm and the double slash, the double charge slash. Switch to Miriam and throw an axe, and then switch back to Zangetsu. What I typically do to avoid these bubbles is I hold down while I'm doing the transformation between Miriam and Zangetsu, and pretty much I'll avoid it every time. Doing the character swap, I find if you mash character swap, A, you're prone to over swapping, and B, you're also prone to not getting it immediately. It's almost like a timing after you land. You kind of know when you can make that swap. You want to be fast on the swap as you can because you want time to not only finish that axe, but switch back to Zangetsu and duck before the bubbles come out. Here you're slashing the boss while he's doing his attack. Get in as many as you can. Again, slashing is kind of a rhythm thing. It's not necessarily mashing. The rhythm will get you more optimal slashes in my experience. Jump left and throw a charm right. Switch to Miriam, and you're going to throw the rest of your axes. This charm is not only doing damage, but it's kind of helping to keep the boss there a little bit longer, making sure that you can land all of your axes. And on third axe, you'll take him down. That's the stage 2 boss quick kill. If you don't catch him there, he'll go across the bottom here and take a little bit of time before he drops out of the ceiling. If you get to that second part when he drops out of the ceiling, if you have any weapon points left, you can hit him with Miriam's axe. You can also hit him with Zangetsu's charge slash. Not the end of the world, but getting the quick kill does save, I think, at least 7 or 8 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. So it is worthwhile, and I mean, it's not something you need to get immediately off the bat, but it's something that in the long run is definitely going to help things. Okay, so stage 3. Stage 3, there was kind of a little bit of debate over which route is fastest, but ultimately in ultimate mode, with all of the characters especially and all the damage that you can tank, the Crusher Room is going to be your fastest. We now have Alfred. Alfred is notorious for not being great, with the exception of his sub-weapons, the sub-weapons being phenomenal. I use Fire Shield in that instance to basically make sure I don't take any extra hits along that section. It also helps in killing the archer enemies because you're still doing 4 damage with Zangetsu's base attack. And yeah, so here you'll see you're going to freeze the golem enemy, double jump over. This is another reason that bottom road is going to be kind of a little bit quicker. You want to have at least 22 weapon energy coming down this set of stairs. Weapon energy management is imperative throughout the entire run, but this level I always kind of have mental markers in my head. You've seen a couple door jumps, you've also seen a couple double charge slashes like on the golems previous. In this Crusher, it's much more free when you have multiple characters than if you're playing Zangetsu only. You'll see me swap to Miriam there to take a damage boost. I'm trying to cycle this a little bit faster, and I find I'm saving the hair of time. But if you're ever in critical HP statuses, you can always swap to another character, take the damage boost, switch back, and you'll get to run with Zangetsu and have that. Ideally, I want my weapon energy at 22 going down the stairs because I know I can hit this room and not have to farm any extra weapon energy before the boss. This is going to be where you see the first instance of Alfred's ice used and kind of how overpowered it is in combination with the axe. I'm just going to pause this here for a moment. So the way this boss works is the coin stacks that he pushes out, any damage that you do does 1 damage to his total HP. It's not increased by anything like Demon Essence. You can't multiple hit the coins. It is just 1 flat damage. Anything that you do to his head does take double damage naturally, and then being able to freeze with Alfred makes him take double damage again, so it actually takes quadruple damage. So in terms of damage values, Zangetsu's normal slash doing 4, Miriam's axe doing 25, well, quadruple it with ice and to his head, you're doing 100 damage, so you're always going to be having the majority of your damage come out of here. Zangetsu's charge slash is going to be used for a couple shots on this boss. I've experimented a little bit with getting a slash in prior, but I always find this is the fastest method for me, at least until I get the first charge slash a little more optimal. So what I did there is, I'll just flip back a second here. I double jump to the right with Zangetsu, I switch to Alfred, and then I fire the ice, and then I jump, and because of Miriam's jump height, it naturally just gets me high enough on here that I can use the axe while facing left. I'll land on the top and the coins start pulling me back to the left hand side. You're just ideally looking to get a combo of 3 ice axes in here for a total of 300 damage, and then 2 charge slashes to finish him off. Boss is really not terrible, pretty free with the ice axe, and once you figure out a way that works for you, you're gonna hit that, 98-99% of the time. Once you have a pattern that you're comfortable with in terms of dealing with the coins, dealing with your jumps, and making sure where you are. So we're going to recruit Giebel. Some people refer to him as not Alucard. He's the only one without special weapons, but ultimately he is useful because when you destroy a special weapon torch or lantern with him, you get 5 weapon energy instead, so that's going to be really handy going forward. Also his bad ability, good for mobility's sake, who is a little bit slow to transform and untransform into him, so it's going to be used kind of sparingly, we'll say, throughout the run. I've started to route out as much of it as I can because I've realized how slow it is. You're going to see me taking top route here for a couple reasons. This stage is also going to be very short, so I'm going to probably draw this back for a second. I'm going to take top route here because I'm actually getting as many weapon points as I can, and I'm trying to save as many as I can. So not having to go over here as Giebel is going to save me a little bit. You can actually land on this platform coming out of the wall if your jumps are well timed. You're going to see a couple more door skips, a couple more Miriam jumps, transforming to Giebel right there out of the wall. Now, this is where you're going to see the first instance of a zip. And not going to be so useful for the out-of-bounds players, but so what's going on here, again, making sure to maximize my weapon energy. What I'm looking to have, ideally and optimally, is I'm looking to have 26 weapon points when I drop down. You can freeze the wolves over here, and this is something I'm probably going to experiment with a little bit more in future, because I believe you could probably save a second utilizing the wolves and freezing them over here opposed to destroying them. But what I'm doing in this whole section is I'm managing my weapon points very carefully to make sure I have just enough and don't have to farm any extra ones. There are extra torches around this fire golem if you do need to farm them. Better off to have them than to not have them. So I'm throwing my ice here because I already have 27. I don't want to get this extra 5 and top out at 30 before I throw my ice, because then I can kind of reap the benefits of having these extras. Do the zip is totally free. You're going to transform into a bat as Giebel, and then you're going to untransform well down towards the floor here, and it's basically going to force the bottom half of this sprite into the floor. This zip is a simple straight drop. It'll take you right into the boss room. I switched to Alfred there, just make this a little bit easier to start, because the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be throwing the ice. So first phase, jump and throw ice at peak. Jumping axe with Miriam. The animation takes a little bit, so jumping axe with Miriam, just to kind of cut down on how quickly I can do, or to speed up how quickly I can do the next one. You have enough iframes that as soon as you get hit from that first one and knock back, you can jump right back in and do the second one. Then Getsu here on phase 2. When you double jump up, you can get either a single, a double, or a triple charge slash hit. Again, the triple is not something you're going to attempt to get. It's going to be something that's more fortunate when you get it. But double you can get pretty much every time as long as your timing is on. So for second phase here, we're going to start in with the jumping charge slash, switch to Alfred and freeze, switch to Miriam and axe. Then you can pretty much afford to go full face at this point in time with Zangetsu. You have the health to tank the damage. It really doesn't do that much. If you're in a real panic, you can swap to other characters and you'll be totally fine. Oops, got back a little bit. So one thing I'll make a point to say is a lot of newer players I find, I'll say, overestimate the usefulness of Demon Essence. So what Demon Essence actually does, for anyone that needs clarification, is it adds 1 extra damage to melee attacks. This is really the only point in the run that you're going to see me utilizing it. Simply because Zangetsu's sword does 4, these enemies have 5 HP. Just being able to kill them in 1 hit without stopping is worth it, and really that's going to be where you see me utilizing, I think, the only time in the run. These jumps can be navigated a couple different ways, but it's really a lot safer than it may look or feel the first couple times that you're doing it. You're going to see the first instance here of a Miriam jump that you kind of switch into Giebel to clip. Back just a tiny bit and show it again here. You switch to Miriam for the higher jump height, switch to Zangetsu for the double jump, and then switch to Giebel to kind of get yourself over that peak. More door skips, more double hits. These are all kind of your bread and butter skills that once you get a feel for them are going to make up a lot of time over multiple stages. There's only a couple door skips I would say are a little more difficult than others. A lot of the door skips are free. They do save a little more in-game time than they do RTA. So the handiness of Alfred's Icicle coming in handy again. For any boss, it does double the damage of the next hit that you do, but for any non-boss enemy, it does actually cause an additional hit to kill them in 1 hit, regardless of what they are. So, easy way through the painting. Second instance, I guess, or the only other time you'll be seeing me use the Demon Essence. This door skip would be a little bit difficult, so switch to Alfred there for a couple reasons. It's not really possible, and I did test doing this door skip without killing the dragon, and you'll just get hit every time, you'll get knocked out of it. The second bonus to using the Icicle here is the dragon, when killed, does drop a lot of weapon pots, so that's not only going to allow you to do the door skip here, but it's also going to allow you to have more weapon points going in and have to farm a little bit at the end. Evil's bat skill, he can, if you're holding up, you can press the attack button, and you will get a little bit of a quick vertical momentum boost. So that's handy in a couple places as well. For the stage 5 boss, he takes 2 ice axes and 1 normal axe. If you want to be totally safe, I recommend using 3 ice axes. The jump axes are not at all mandatory. Again, if you're beginning, I would say kind of wait until he comes down, sneak in your 3 axe attacks, and you're good. I've tried to optimize this fight as much as I could and cut out little bits of time here and there. When you're doing the ice axes, the caveat to this is, especially when he's going right and you're having to walk back left, is you're walking against the rain, which pushes you back. So you kind of want to make sure that for this second phase or this second swoop here, that you freeze him as far to the right as you can and that you end up as far to the left as you can. So I'm going to take this back and show a couple things that I've worked on to optimize this fight here. So I've started off, because you can get in 1 axe without ice, the easiest part for me to get that in quickly is right at the start of the fight, where I know everything is going to be the same. Everything's static. So I use kind of a visual cue. The music here for a moment. I use a visual cue. I look for Miriam's feet. There's these little lines, and there's this big pillar right in the middle of, I don't know, it's a ship, it looks like, obviously. Um, so I kind of wait until her foot is just to the left of this last line and just kind of before she lines up with the right hand edge of this. And I'll do a jumping air axe, which is jumping and pressing the sub weapon button immediately after. And you will get him without the freeze here. And you do press forward as well. This is the one I was talking about, wanting to freeze him as far to the right as you can, because you do have to run against the rain. One final ice axe. Again, if you're not comfortable doing the jumping air axes, wait until he comes down, get your damage in there. It's not nearly as hard, and the air axes may save some time, but especially when you're newer and going for consistency, when he comes down is going to be the easiest strat for sure. All right, so stage 6, this is where you're going to see most players deviate from the ice axe strats, which makes total sense. 95% of people should be taking, well, maybe not 95. Well, I'll say 90% of people should take ice into this, or sorry, take lightning into this fight. So here's grabbing the power glove, and this is where normally I would grab lightning. So this is the first time that you really see, I believe, this green style lantern here, and this is the only thing that drops lightning for Alfred. So Bloodless, the boss of stage 6, there's a really consistent, really good lightning strat. It's not in my video, but I'll kind of explain it once we get there as well. So if you're not going for the absolute optimal fight and you want to go for a really fast fight that also happens to be really consistent, after you grab this power glove here, which increases your regular attack damage, simply jump up and grab the lightning with Alfred. Skipping it, really, you're just saving the little bit of time grabbing it here and grabbing ice on a later level. And the fight is actually faster with ice axe, but it is dependent on RNG. So we'll kind of talk about that when we get there. But that's where you're going to be grabbing lightning for the majority of people that are going to be doing the run. Here you're going to see a series of Miriam jumps. These axe guys look scary, but they are always reactive to where you are. So as long as you're doing your jumps the same way, they're going to actually move the same way, and you're always going to have the same result. The axes they throw are a little bit random, but as long as they're moving in that way, you're not going to be in any danger of actually getting hit by the axes. I've never gotten hit since I've started utilizing that strat. So here's an instance of, again, kind of doing a little clip. That back for a second. So I'm going for the double jump. First one, I'm just butting up against the wall here. And then I'm basically jumping my second time just as I get below here. And it's going to take me up to the right. And I'm going to switch to Keeble, transform into the bat, and then kind of just get my way out of the wall and untransform. That's the optimal way to do this. If you don't want to do it this way, there is a way that's almost as fast, and it's with a Miriam jump. I think it only loses about 1.5 seconds, assuming that this strat is done optimally. So the other way to do it, which is also, I guess, a backup if you happen to miss this strat on the fly, is you want to be holding a charge and you want to drop down to this platform here and then jump up, and you'll be able to release your charge slash, killing these 2 enemies. And then you do a normal Miriam jump up right here. So jump with Miriam, switch to Zangetsu, get your double jump, and you'll actually land on top of this platform and can just go up the stairs. So if you ever happen to miss that, or if you don't want to go for the little clip through the wall, the Miriam jump straight under, where that knight was shown is your best bet. Stage 6 for the most part, I mean, I guess a lot of the stages for the most part, it's just nailing your door skips. It's where you're saving little bits of time in terms of, WP optimization, picking up less lanterns and things, not having to switch as much. Switching characters, keep in mind, it doesn't actually lose you any in-game time, but it does lose you RTA time. It's to the Castlevania hallway. Going into this fight, you want to have 30, especially if you're going to try ice axes. If you're going in with lightning, you want to at least have 24. But ideally, you want to have 30, even if you're going in with lightning, because you can throw in a non-ice axe for optimal strats. We'll go through this fight, and then I'll kind of explain what you're looking for and what you're going to do for both styles of the fight. I was very fortunate in this fight because I happened to get a double shot on the first axe there. I did make a slight mistake. So with her desperation attack, she chases you to one wall and then goes back. Should have actually run to the right here, because where she was already on the right hand side, she would have just come to the left and then started that phase of her desperation attack where you can hit her. So I did make a small error there. You can save a little bit of time in this fight by being mindful of that. So for example, if you kill her and she's on this side, just run to the left wall, basically whichever wall she's closest to. For the ice axes, and what makes this RNG dependent to get kind of an optimal fight, is the placement of the umbrellas. The placement of the umbrellas are completely random, and they can start anywhere. You want to see this middle umbrella essentially start anywhere in the middle. That's a really bad freeze frame. Essentially start anywhere in the middle or more towards the right hand side. Same thing for this top umbrella. If you happen to see it up here on the right hand side, stop it, because she's going to be going to this side, and this is kind of where you can get in all of your attacks right off the bat. This middle umbrella starts on the left. It's a little bit painful, but you do kind of want to wait for it to align with her, because the axe hitbox is huge, but it's not that huge. I wouldn't say necessarily go for a double axe hit, and it doesn't save as much time as it was. I was a little bit surprised that it happened, but I haven't found any way to get the double axe hit on her consistently. If you're using lightning, this fight is extremely consistent and also very fast. You're going to enter the boss room actually with Alfred if you're going to use lightning, just to save yourself a little bit of time. So the way that lightning works is it creates a small ball and it goes back and forth and does like a homing attack over the enemy. You can create 3 of them simultaneously, 4 weapon points apiece. So you want to have enough to do 6. What you'll do if you do lightning is come in with Alfred, you'll spawn 3 lightning balls, switch to Zangetsu, and sneak in 2 charge slashes on her while the lightning balls are doing their work. Switch back to Alfred, spawn 3 more, switch back to Zangetsu, and do either 2 more charge slashes, or if the umbrellas are being friendly and you happen to have 30 weapon points coming into this fight, you can switch to Miriam and you can use an axe. So that's a way that you can throw an axe into the lightning fight, is using 6 lightning attacks with Alfred, 2 charge slashes with Zangetsu, and 1 axe should the umbrellas align here and be a little bit friendly. But alternatively, the 4 charge slashes with Zangetsu are not that slow in comparison. But if you don't happen to get the double hit in and you're going for ice axes, it's just as much as throwing 1 extra axe in. You do have the weapon points, and you can even freeze her again if you don't want her to move, or if you're afraid she's going to bump you. You can even freeze her again, because if you're going in there with 30, you do have the extra weapon points benefit there. Stage 7 is going to be the second instance where we're going to see a zip. This room tends to be a little bit treacherous, and I've toyed around multiple times with kind of what I feel is optimal and fastest. I would say more than anything on that room, go for comfort over speed. Kind of take it back a little bit. What I've started doing here is I hold charge after getting the lantern down here. Make sure you destroy it with Geeple so you can get the 5 weapon points. Hold charge, destroy him. These platforms are on a cycle, so that if your timing is right, you're always going to be able to double jump up here and land on this platform naturally. Jumping is going to be faster than flying vertically. It's also going to save you weapon energy. So I do a double jump up with Zangetsu from this platform onto here, double jump again and switch to Geeble and transform. Switch to Miriam and do a jump, and then right up. This armor adds 1 to your defense, extremely handy, again, especially if you're new. I've opted to start skipping it, which maybe saves a second and a half if I'm being really generous. Saves even less time skipping it in Ultimate than it does in something like normal, for example. Grab this, You definitely don't need to skip it. I feel like with 4 characters and 4 health bars at this amount, you're totally fine. You don't need any more. If you're new, grab it. It's not worth skipping it for a second, and it may save you in a situation that you would regret later. This is just kind of optimizing movement with Zangetsu's double jumps, switching to Giebel to get up over the ledges, not having to wait for the books. This hallway, hopefully you get a double hit on that armor. If you don't, you can just barrel your way through with the iframes. And more door skips, of course. Door skips everywhere. This is where you're going to see the second instance of the zip. You can Miriam jump up. If you happen to be playing Zangetsu only, you can also double jump and bump off the candle just to the left of this platform here. So come from the right, jump up, and you will land on top of the platform. It only works in Veteran, of course, where you actually have knockback. To initiate the zip itself, you're going to double jump to the right with Zangetsu and hold up, and you're actually going to grab a set of stairs that's off screen here. You're going to hold up for the entire duration of the stage 7 zip, and this one is much more risky than stage 4, where stage 4 is completely free. You just drop down to the boss room. If you do something wrong in this zip, you do have risk of soft locking. You can also drop out in a place that'll take you back to the start of the level if you happen to do it incorrectly. You hold up for the entire duration until you actually press down to exit the zip. I'll go back and I'll kind of explain some of my visual cues that I use, because I know it just looks like a bunch of squares. So things that I look for, and everyone has their own cue in terms of what they're doing. And there's actually a couple places that you can drop out of the zip depending on what mode you're playing and which one might be more optimal. I look for this clearing on the right hand side to kind of know to get ready, if you will, that I am going to have to press down in a short amount of time. There are small things in the background, and I'll see if I can catch it a little bit late on the pause. I'll go back a second if I can grab it again. So, good example here. Okay. You can see right here, there's actually something in the background, and it may be hard to see when I have it paused, but while all of these screen movements are going on after I see that, essentially I look for this. I'm not sure if it's a torch, I'm not sure if it's Zangetsu, it's orange, whatever it is. It's coming down and to the left. So once I see that and the screen stops moving, I count 3 more screen movements before I press down to exit the zip. So this is going to go off screen, and then I'm going to count 3 screen movements. What you should see is screen's going to move right, down, and then right again. Because of the direction it's going, you're going to see the screen. You're going to see the squares go left, up, and then left, and that's when I'm going to press down. So right, down, right, and that's when I press down right there. So it's something that it's daunting at first. You will probably get it the majority of times after you have a visual cue and once you find your comfort zone. But to show it one more time, there's the clearing on the right hand side. There's the torch. 1, 2, 3, press down. When you come out of here, jump to the right, so because you do drop straight down, so jump to the right there. You're going to navigate these platforms. This is going to drop you out right before the boss. There is actually a zip that will take you right to the final boss, but it's slower. So we opt not to use it. The zip itself is slower, and it takes more time than navigating through these final few rooms. Theme of the run overall, of course, we are going to use the ice axe on the boss as well. So it's going to be 3 ice axes and sneak in a few normal shots to finish him off. I usually do 2 whips with Miriam, jump and do a whip, switch to Giebel, and then stand there and just kind of finish him. You want to make sure all of your projectiles are hitting if you're going to do that strat. Alright, so try and skip through this a little bit. So stage 8, Stage 8 is not overly complex. It's going to be a lot of dashing, and you want to make sure your stair alignment is on. Something I guess I haven't touched on is the fact that you will fall through stairs. It happens to everybody when you're trying to jump and when you're trying to grab onto them. Little stair drop here. I'm just going to pause this for a second and take this back. So stairs you can fall through. I always say that they're consistently inconsistent, and the reason I say that is because if your setup is the same every time, then you'll be fine every time. If you miss it, it's because you're actually jumping at the same pixel or on the same pixel. So if you're apt to miss stairs a lot, try and change your alignment of how you get started, and you should be fine. Walk off the ledge here. When you drop down, you want to actually hold up because you land below the screen transition. If you hold down once you grab that set of stairs, you will die. So drop down to the left and then hold up. You will hit the screen transition and you will come down here. This is going to be a lot of utilizing double jumps and some charge double hits as well. Alfred's fire shield does protect against, I don't know if you want to call them bugs. I don't know what we've actually settled on what they are, but Alfred's fire shield will protect you from these guys if you happen to get hit by them otherwise. They are quite damaging, so just be aware of that. Another door skip, more Miriam jumps. Double charge slash on this guy here. These platforms are really easy once you get a feel for them. There's a couple different ways you can do them. You can run down that stack as well, opposed to jumping over them. But once you have a plan that works, you're probably apt to just stick to it. You utilize double jumps and a single Miriam jump to get up here as fast as possible. Another double shot on the gargoyle. If you happen to miss that, do kill that enemy because he is extremely annoying in 95% of cases that you don't kill him. He will follow you, he will bump into you, it's terrible. Going into this fight, you're going to want to have full weapon energy and grab the ball and chain as well. I've toyed around with Gremory, and there's a couple different ways that I found to optimize the fight. What I've realized is that taking a little extra time in phase 1 means I can speed up phase 2 a little bit, and if I take a little less time in phase 1 and I do a little more damage, or if I change up my strats, I'd end up costing myself a little bit of time in phase 2. So 1 6 half dozen really. The way that I did this fight, and I will pull this back for a moment, the way that I did this fight is I held charge right at the start, I did a chain, and then I double jumped in to get a double charge slash. Turn on fire, make sure I'm not taking any damage from these guys. Just simple jump slashes. You can get double hits on Gremory phase 1 with a normal jump slash as well, so if you're getting those, you're going to be fortunate. The alternate strat here, if you don't want to use the axes, is after you use the fire with Alfred, you can, if you don't want to use the ball and chains, sorry, and if you don't want to use the charge, you can use an axe with Miriam. And that's another way that you can get a lot of damage on phase 1 pretty quickly. You trade off doing the charge at the start for just going face with Zangetsu, doing charge, or doing the fire shield, and then doing the axe with Miriam. You're just going to basically short yourself on weapon energy here. The ball and chain is really handy in phase 2. You see me alternating between charge slashes and ball and chain hits. So I'm essentially charging my normal slash while I'm jumping and doing the ball and chain slash. That's what allows me to alternate between the two. Grab the weapon energy that these moons drop because they're super handy. The more you have, the better, and that little bit of RNG does actually play a factor here. Another reason that having ball and chain is awesome is because this torch actually then becomes a large weapon pot. So you actually get a free stock up for a couple extra ball and chains once those spears drop. That's it. That's essentially any percent ultimate mode in a nutshell. Again, a lot of this can be used for any percent no out of bounds with the exception of the zips and the door skips. Door skips are not allowed in no out of bounds. If you're playing casual, most of these will apply as well, despite the fact that this run was done on veteran. That's my typical category. Anything really applies with the exception of anything that requires a damage boost. Keep in mind that you won't be able to do your typical damage boost strats in casual mode. But hope everyone found this handy, and hopefully it helps you guys get into running the game.